All right, everybody, welcome to the Pro Zone. This is Rick. I am here with a very special guest, a favorite YouTuber of mine, Mr. Pureval, Joe LaDow. How are you, sir?
I'm quite well.
I'm glad to hear it. So, I've actually discovered you through your YouTube page and the awesome unboxings that you do. For I think the first video I saw was when Pro Wrestling Loot had that $15 box sale about a bunch
Yeah,
of
I think that was one of my
months.
first videos.
Yeah, mine too. I think I actually ended up getting a huge High Spots box for mine. I think we started around the same time, but I've enjoyed the unboxings, and we kind of, gone back a little bit talking about professional wrestling on the. So I'm glad to have you here finally, and I've liked, like I said, I like the videos. When did you start watching professional wrestling?
I started in the late spring, early summer of 1991.
That was a good
The
time period.
first episode I recall watching entirely was the one where Earthquake squished Damien.
I love that. That's awesome.
It freaked me out. My mom was working. I called her in tears because I didn't realize.
Right. It was probably a pillow or something in there, right? So
Yeah, I think he said it's like pantyhose or something, but
wow, that's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Where did you grow up? Like,
I grew up in New Hampshire mostly.
New Hampshire. Oh, that's not
Yeah.
that far. So, WWF territory, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, what did you Who were some of your favorites growing up?
Early on, well, I've always been a big Bret Hart fan.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because Mr. Perfect, he has had the IC belt when I first started watching,
Mm-hmm.
and just he was everything I hated. The cocky guy, the cool guy, good
Right.
looking. He could sink a shot blindfolded when I could barely dribble a basketball.
That's awesome.
And Bret Hart beat him at SummerSlam '91, and I just freaked out. He kicked out of the Perfect Plex, which I didn't know anybody had ever done.
I think at that time period, I'd probably been a fan for about 6 or 7 years myself. I discovered pro wrestling in 1984, and I went to my first live event in '88.
Wow.
And it didn't really sink in until my first live show, though. Like prior to that, it was just something that was on every now and again, and I heard the kids talking about it at school. When I went to my first live show, I became obsessed with professional wrestling. Like it's all I wanted to watch. So, in the old New Haven Coliseum, and I remember that match you're talking about, the Perfect and Bret Hart match. I thought that was like at that time period. I thought it was like such an insanely awesome match. It was so good, especially for that time period where people weren't putting on those style of matches.
Yeah, they weren't doing technical matches, and
right.
Yeah, it's still, I think, one of like the top 5 best matches.
Absolutely. We didn't. I was hoping to cover that on the podcast because during the month of August we covered retro SummerSlams leading up to the current one, and I was hoping somebody would have picked that, but I actually got mistaken when somebody picked 1990 and it was Perfect and Red Rooster. So that's
not the same quality.
Or Terry Taylor. I should say Terry Taylor. I like to call him Terry Taylor. I love Terry Taylor as a wrestler. His WWF one was just a joke. So
I never really got to see him much. I saw him a little bit in WCW when he was
Tailor Made Man, or there was one more. What was he?
It was with that corporation thing.
Yeah, the York Foundation.
York Foundation, yes.
Yeah. I liked him, and when he first came back to WCW, and I think it was 1990, and he had a great series with Arn Anderson over the television title, which I thought were some of the greatest. They wrestled like 3 weeks in a row, and then you really thought something big was going to happen during the third match, and it just ends in a disqualification because Ric Flair gets involved, and then they just drop the whole storyline. But that was WCW in 1990. It was
always WCW.
Yeah, they just dropped some of the most.
They never fulfilled their promises.
Yeah, I know. I loved like Arn Anderson is probably my favorite wrestler of all time. So I was just like, but Terry is, he's up there on the list as far as like great workers. He was like a little version of Ric Flair, basically. Like he had that look and he was very competent in the ring. He just got always stuck with a really crappy gimmick or stuck in the mid card.
Yeah, he just never was able to break through.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember when he came back in WWF as terrific Terry Taylor? I think it lasted like a month.
I
I
think
bet
it
you
was
don't.
just before. Yeah, I don't recall it. I think it was like right before I started watching or something,
Yeah.
because he
I
didn't come back long.
No, it was. I remember he was on Monday Night Raw like once or twice, and then that was it. He was gone. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. He didn't have the mohawk, the red mohawk, though. So, because he
Yeah.
was terrific, he wasn't clucking. So, so you collect a lot. I see
I
that you collect a lot. When did you start collecting?
Pretty much like when I first got into it,
Yeah.
because I was probably 11 or 12 or so when I
Right.
first started watching. So the Hasbro figures were like all over the stores then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my mom was actually a manager of a toy department. So I the figures kind of helped fuel me getting into it.
Right.
Like I remember getting Picking Demolition just because they looked cool. And they'd
Right.
already broken up by the time I got into it. But I didn't know, so I'm like, I love these guys, and they're nowhere on TV.
Yeah. Those Hasbro figures were really cool, and especially some of them
Yeah.
are really worth a lot of money. I don't know if you follow the. Do you follow on Facebook the '80s wrestling auctions? Or
No,
no?
I don't.
Oh man, I bought an overabundance of magazines, '80s wrestling magazines from them recently. Tommy Fierro, who was a promoter in the 1990s and earlier 2000s, he books like the '80s Wrestling Con, which is the biggest con in New Jersey, I think, for wrestling related.
Oh,
Brings back like a lot of '80s, early '90s WWF wrestlers and stuff. It's God, he's got some really crazy stuff on there.
yeah.
Like, yeah, it's really cool to look through. I've just, like I said, he's got magazines from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and I bought so many magazines from there.
I still have, I think, every magazine I bought, which I got
Whoa.
a lot of them.
Wow. Did you keep them in good condition?
They're pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I read
Yeah.
them. I took the posters out. They were all over my walls. You
Yeah.
know, I wasn't
Yeah.
looking to collect them. It was
Right.
I just got them all.
Right. I bought a lot of them. I remember there used to be this one newsstand where I lived in New Haven, Connecticut I'd go there every Friday. I worked with my father. I'd go there every Friday when I got paid, and I'd buy every brand new wrestling magazine that Friday that came out. It was just they're a lot of fun. Now I find myself going back and buying the older issues again. Sometimes High Spots will throw them up on the beginning
Yeah, I've
tables
seen a
too.
few of them. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's a
I've
lot
got a
of fun
few
to.
autographed ones lately.
Well, now I do go to a lot of autograph signings here. There's like this one store in particular that's been having sales or like autograph signings lately. It's pretty incredible because it's like during the time where there's no wrestling going on. Well, now it's starting to come back, but like no local
Slowly.
indie events. Yeah, slowly.
Yeah.
I just started going to this stuff, so started going to the. I just went and met Tommy Rich not so long ago, so I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'm surprised that he actually came from Tennessee to Connecticut of all places to do an
Yeah.
autograph signing. It's like he wasn't very big up here. I don't think he ever wrestled in Connecticut, but I'm trying to think of who else. Eric Young recently came, who was super nice. I know there was one more, but I can't think.
Yeah, unfortunately, there
Yeah.
isn't much in my area for signings
Yeah.
and stuff. That store I mentioned did one with one of the Doinks. I think he was like the third one or something.
So it might have been Phil Apollo, maybe, or Vince Apollo, depending
No.
on. Nope. Trying to think of who else played the character outside of
Yeah, he had.
Matt Bourne and him.
Yeah, he was. I can't think of his name off
Yeah.
the top of my head. He lives fairly local, and
Okay.
Tony Atlas was there as well.
Yeah, he was just at an autograph signing at a local indie event recently, and they did recently came back. They did 3 shows back to back to back in one day. This
I want to say John something was the Doink's name.
John something. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah,
I really have to look that up. I have no idea. So,
yeah, it was. I know it was after Matt Bourne had left.
Right.
You had like a short run with it or something.
Yeah, I can't even think of who was in there at that time period. Who else?
They
I
threw
remember
everybody in there. So
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I remember Phil Apollo, Vince Apollo, whatever. Like depending on where he worked, he had a different first name. But I remember him working a world class just as himself. I don't know if you remember him at all, but he was a jobber in WWF. So and then they just decided to put him in the Doink costume because he had the shape, I guess, of Matt Bourne. So to fit it.
You know what? If it gets over.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think he was mostly in the while he was a babyface,
Yeah, he
during
was
the
like
baby
the
phase.
second one or something.
Yeah, and Matt Bourne was the
He
what's
was
it
the
the
heel.
heel version. Matt Bourne was a great heel. I loved
Oh
Matt
yeah.
Bourne, and I don't know if did you ever watch World Class Wrestling at all?
No, I think it
Yeah,
folded before I got in, or I didn't have much
yeah.
access to it if it hadn't.
I remember, and I used to run home every day after school because it was on ESPN at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I used to, as soon as I got home, I'd just run home, forget my homework, and just jump in front of the TV because World Class was going to be on. I was so excited, and that's where I discovered a lot of guys. It was on
Well,
every
it's
single
funny
day.
because Global Wrestling Federation was on when I started watching
It's
on
the
ESPN.
It was the precursor to USWA,
Yeah,
and then Global. It's I think Joe Pedicino ran Global, which was, but
yeah,
they did in the Sportatorium, which was the same building in Texas.
yeah. It was interesting because there were so many guys who like got their starts there.
Yeah.
I remember
Um,
Harlem Heat started there. I
yep.
saw them back when they were like nobodies just starting out. Buff Bagwell came through there.
The Handsome Stranger.
Yes.
Yeah. What's his name too? Ahmed Johnson, who was he wrestled as Moadib there.
Yep.
The Patriot.
Oh yeah.
Bill Wilkes.
He was like the star there.
Yeah, he was one of the biggest. Yeah, they really pushed him. I think he won just about every title.
Yep.
And
Eddie
it also,
Gilbert was big there.
I loved Eddie Gilbert.
Me too.
Well, I don't have it in front of me. It's probably in one of the boxes behind me, but I bought during one of the High Spots gimmick tables the classic Memphis DVD
Oh,
of
I
the
got that one
best.
too.
Oh, it's awesome, right?
I
It's
haven't
like,
watched it yet, but yeah, I got it.
well, the thing is, we lost. We had a storm here about a month or two ago, and we lost power. And then when the power came on, the cable went out. So I did have a DVD player, so I popped it in one day. So, and I was just like, I really enjoyed it. Everybody was like, yeah, I tried to bring up all the DVDs, and nobody wanted to watch wrestling. So, especially old Memphis wrestling from the early '80s because it was too grainy. But I loved watching that.
Yeah.
It was a really good DVD. The
Yeah, my
Lawler
kids are
feud that he
doing
had.
remote learning, and I've been working my way through the Dreamer versus Raven DVD from
Oh,
ECW.
yeah, that's a good one. I remember when that came out. It's really cool. That was a great feud. Like it was
Yeah.
so intense.
Well, I
Uh,
missed the feud one in ECW. Like the first episode of ECW I caught was the last match of the feud.
oh, really?
Yeah,
So it was probably I'm trying to think. 96 probably.
something
96.
like that.
Yeah,
It
because I
was
remember
right
he
after
ended up.
Barely Legal.
Yeah, that's about right. And then I think what's his name? Raven went to WCW,
WCW. Yeah,
and then he came back, and then they teamed up for a little while.
yeah.
Raven and Tommy, which was was
Weird.
pretty. Yeah, it was weird. I think it's yeah, it was. But ECW did a bunch of stuff like that, random stuff.
Yeah.
I think I actually started watching ECW pretty early on because I used to work for Stop and Shop, a grocery store, and I used to
Oh, I know
work
them.
yeah, I used to work late, so I used to get off at like midnight, and then I'd come home, and then ECW was on at like 2 o'clock in the morning on the MSG channel, which was Madison Square Garden Network. So I used to watch that like every Saturday night, and it's about 1995, and I was just like, at first, ECW was affiliated with the NWA. Obviously, I think everybody knows that. So
Yeah,
it's like
and
when
then
they,
Shane Douglas.
yeah. So it's just like I used to catch this stuff, and I discovered so many great people from in there. Chris Benoit before he exploded, Eddie Guerrero, Malenko, all these guys before going to WCW with all the big paychecks and stuff.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wish I had seen them back then. I never heard about them somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when the pay-per-view, they started getting a lot of noise, and people at school were talking about it. And finally,
Yeah.
they had like infomercial time on some random channel.
That would have. Yeah, they would buy time.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So it was literally like 1, 2 in the morning or something like that. So I'd stay
Yeah.
up as late as I could, just pop in a tape and like let it record for like 8 hours, and then
That's how I
fast forward
recorded.
through a bunch of crap till I got to the wrestling.
That's how I recorded like my AWA footage, like a lot of times, because that was always on very late on ESPN on like Saturday nights for the most part, and a lot of times I was just too old or too young to like stay up that late, so I just threw in a video, record it, fast forward it, and I remember even as late as like 1989, I would still do that even though I was a teenager, but I was the Rock and Roll Express and the British Bulldogs had that one match against each other, and I was just like enthralled with that match. It's just so awesome. And I didn't end up finding a copy of that match until like 20 years later on. I don't even know. I think I got some Japanese DVD, and that was on there. That's a great match, though. It really is, because those are two awesome tag teams. Yeah. I think now it might be on YouTube. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah,
I'll try to. Yeah, I know. And so are we. So,
hey.
So what's your favorite item that you've received in a box? I know that's always like a tricky question, because it's like,
that is tough. From specifically a box, not something I've like purchased. I've gotten some good T-shirts I like.
Yep.
There was recently a Roddy Piper one with like a panther on it that was really cool.
I saw that. That looked, I hadn't gotten the last two pro wrestling crates, unfortunately. I canceled for a little bit because just funds, trying to,
I get it.
Trying to live. I for some reason I kept the loot box, which is like, some of the merchandise is kind of and the pro wrestling loot boxes, but I should have kept the crate. So I think I'm going to resubscribe this week, especially want to get it before the new box goes out.
Oh, the Masks and Paint one. Yeah,
because that one looks really good. Yeah. So how long have you been subscribing to that one, to these boxes?
Pro Wrestling Crate itself, a little more than a year, I think.
All right.
It was I subscribed to Loot Crate for quite a while, if you know them.
Yeah, I know Loot Crate, and they're
and basically their quality went like really downhill.
Yeah.
Boxes were really late, and then they were getting bought out.
They went bankrupt.
Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? I don't trust what's going to happen, and I'm getting absolute garbage. So I canceled it.
They owe me several boxes from the WWE Slam Crate, or they owe me, good $60, $70, because they have yet to send me anything. I don't know if you subscribe to the Slam Crate, but
I did not do the Slam Crate. I just did the regular Loot Crate.
Yeah, so I don't know if they still have some sort of. I don't know if they have a wrestling other than WWE Slam Crate. I'd have to look into that, but I heard about it. And I started, like I said, I got really obsessed with unboxing videos for like a while, for like a few months, like when the pandemic started. Excuse me. And that's how I discovered the Slam Crate and Pro Wrestling Crate and stuff. So that's why I subscribed to like a bunch in like 1 week, and then, but so they started coming little by little. But then the Slam Crate, and then it's just like, oh, okay, it's pushed back because of COVID. But I'm like, that's weird, because I'm getting all these other crates that are, they're not using some excuse. And then like once again, another month goes by, and then another month. Now it's been 7 months, and they've taken my money 3 times, and I have yet to get anything.
Yeah, Loot Crate's been a mess.
Yeah.
But so I canceled them, and I'm like, I want another box. I like getting a box.
Yeah.
And I'd heard about Pro Wrestling Crate. I saw a couple of YouTube videos of people doing it. And finally, I watched like 2 or 3 just to make sure that it was going to be something I wanted. Then I'm like, all right, I'm going to go for it. And then later on, I found Pro Wrestling Loot Box.
Mm-hmm.
And I was about to subscribe to it, and then 1 month, the autograph was like some YouTube guy. I don't even know his name. You might know him. And he's done like a couple of matches, but he's big for like doing like backyard wrestling stuff on YouTube.
You talking about Superhuman?
Yes.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah, no, I've seen his.
Why is he an autograph? So I skipped. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to get it. And then the next month they had Terry Funk.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, come on. If I'd signed up, I would have had Terry Funk. So
I wish.
When they had that $15 deal, I got like 4 of the boxes. I'm like, all right, there's actually good stuff in here.
Yeah. One of the autographs you got, I was quite jealous about, because I remember one, because I bought 4 boxes myself, and I got one of the autographs I ended up giving away, because I don't care about Blue Meanie at all. So it just seems they have like this huge deal worked out with Blue Meanie. It's like every other box has a Blue Meanie item in it. So I'm just like, you got a Thunder Rosa autograph in one of your boxes, I remember, right?
Yes,
Am I correct?
I did.
Yes. So I was just like, she's like one of my favorites. And I'm like, damn. I was like, he got that, and I got this Blue Meanie autograph.
Yeah, she's the one I didn't recognize at first. Because I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I watched a lot of Lucha Underground. and I
didn't-
didn't pick up that she had changed until my friend
Right.
mentioned it.
I didn't even watch Lucha Underground because I never got the channel. So I kind of watch a little bit here and there now, like when they uploaded it to Netflix. Now it's on, I think, Tubi, like another streaming service. But so I have yet to actually fully.
I watched every episode except for the final one, just because I loved it so much I didn't want it to be over. So I still have it recorded, and I'm like,
Never watched it.
It's like, I've got to watch it, but I can't bring myself to. It was like my son and I would just like watch it together because he absolutely loved it.
So you got kids that like wrestling too.
Yep.
None of my kids like wrestling. I drag them to shows, like indie shows, and nobody likes wrestling except for me.
I took my son to a house show a few years ago.
Yeah.
In Manchester, New Hampshire. He liked John Cena a lot, and I took him to that, and it was Cena versus Ryback in a tables match.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, and Chris Jericho and Fandango.
Okay.
And it was like a street fight or something.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I
had really good seats, and
that's cool.
Yeah.
I hadn't gone to many. There was like a short period that I didn't go to any wrestling, or then I met my second wife and I started taking her son, who was a WWE fan at the time, to events. So I kind of rediscovered like wrestling through him again. So I think there's like a good 3 year period. So it's like wrestling had changed a lot just in that 3 year period. Like women's wrestling became more prominent.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, this is weird.
It went from being TNA to wrestlers.
Right. And I was like, so I was like, this is weird. I was just like, what are you talking about? I was like, why is they'd always make a big deal about these women's matches. I was like, those matches are just filler. What are you talking about? Everybody's like, you're crazy. No, these are the best matches on the show. And I'm just like, I started watching. I was like, wow, they're actually making them very important. So I was like, it was just a completely different world in that 3 years.
Well, something my wife pointed out, because she's not really a fan. She kind of watches with me.
Yeah.
On occasion. And she's like, it's nice to see that the women have arms now.
Right.
She's like, before they were all these stick models.
Right.
She's like, now they actually look like they're athletes.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I never picked up on it, but,
Yeah, some of them definitely look, more like wrestlers, or, more athletic than sticks or models. But what do you watch today as far as wrestling goes? Excuse me.
I watch WWE. I don't follow as religiously, just with my work schedule. I try to catch Raw. I watch a little bit of SmackDown, not much. No particular reason. I just... Yeah. I think there was something else like the kids liked on at that time, and we could only like record one show at a time, so
okay.
They kind of get precedence. I've started watching AEW. I enjoy some of it. Some of it frustrates me.
I understand that. I kind of gave up on Raw and SmackDown. I totally stopped recording it on my DVR like altogether. It's like if I want to watch it, I'll go on the internet and catch some stuff. But it's like it just turned into within a half hour to an hour, I'd shut it off out of frustration.
Yeah, so, it drives me nuts when I click on I watch for a half hour. I'm like, I haven't seen a match.
That's
I ate my entire dinner and I didn't see a single match.
Right, that's my biggest pet peeve with that. Yeah. And then the other one is AEW. You're right about that. One of the big things is that what are they, about a year old now?
Give or take, I think a little more
give or take. A little more. I mean, if you want to count all in, it's almost 2 years, and the pay-per-views they did before leading up to their television, whichever.
Yeah.
So I always said this about the TV. They have a lot of kinks to work out. They've gotten better, but there's still a lot of kinks to work out. And they could have a really good run of say 3 good weeks in a row, and then there'll be that 4th week. It's so dreadful to watch. It's like, ugh, kind of like watching a really bad episode of Raw. So it's kind of disappointing.
My biggest issue with them is it's the same thing TNA went through when they first started. I don't know how much you paid attention when they started.
I was a huge fan. Yeah.
Yeah. But they did the thing where they had like all these great guys. They had AJ Styles, they had Samoa Joe, I think Loki, I think
Yeah,
was in there.
Loki was in there.
Yeah, but they had all these like basically homegrown people who had been, TNA from the beginning. Then all of a sudden, it was just whenever somebody left WWE, they instantly
jumped.
signed them.
Yep.
They brought them in and they pushed them over everybody else.
Right.
And it
That's
got to the point
absolutely
it was
true.
like, the retirement home for WWE.
Well, I see that. I mean, there is a slight argument I do have with that. A lot of people do say that, but I don't. I'm not comparing that to say like the way TNA or WCW was, because I think that they're definitely letting some of their other younger talents shine a little bit more than say those two companies were.
Yeah, I mean they're shining, but like look at the titles.
Yes.
It was Chris Jericho won it.
Jericho, Moxley.
Lost it to Dean Ambrose.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that part.
The what do they call it? The TNA title, which for the record is like the stupidest name for a title ever, or the TNT title.
The TNT title. Yeah. I hate that title. It's the most. The design is ugly. Yeah. Cody got it, and then Brody
got it, and then he loses it to a WWE mid-carder.
Yeah.
So unless you're either elite or former WWE, you really don't have a chance.
Right.
Everyone else is like 8-8 right now or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely get that. It's a lot of people are comparing them to WCW. I think also in the beginning that they had a lot of steam because it was a fresh new product and it was something different.
And Cody was hot as hell.
He was, absolutely, because he'd come off his WWE run and then he like rebuilt his character on the Indies and Ring of Honor and New Japan, and here he is now starting this company up with all these guys, the elite guys, and it'd be people were going crazy for this product before they even held a show. They were buying shirts. The
first show sold out in like 90 seconds or something stupid like that. Yeah,
something crazy like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's good for them. It's like more wrestling is always good. But you got to put on a good product as well. Not that they don't put on a good product, but it's
it drives me nuts just because they have some guys I really like. Like, I love Pentagon. I love Phoenix.
Absolutely. Yep.
And they're just like mired in this weird storyline where they're in like 8-man matches constantly, and it's like.
And the thing is, they made a huge deal about the Lucha Brothers coming in, but you've only really seen them a handful of times. Ultimately, if you really think about it.
I know they had the issue where like I think it was Pentagon was stuck in Mexico or something like that. Yeah,
and then he suffered an injury on an indie. Yeah.
But it's like you have like who was like one of the hottest wrestlers in the country, if not the world.
Yeah.
Super talented, and you're doing nothing with him.
You're referring to Omega?
Pentagon.
Oh, you're referring to... Okay. Yeah, I think that...
Coming out of Lucha Underground, he was huge. He was so hot. He was tearing up the indies, and then it's just like, we're going to use him to build up freaking FTR.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing I got to say with like Omega. It's like he's just been a tag team mid-carder the entire time, and then they put him in like a mixed, like an intergender match as well. It's like on like AEW Dark, and it's just he's the biggest wrestler in the world. PWI number 1, 2-3 years ago or something like that, and in the top 500. And then it's just like he comes here and starts to make his mark in the United States, and it's just used as like a preliminary, like a mid-carder.
I heard about him so much. Yeah. Like, oh, cool, I get to see this guy because we had DirecTV for a while, and I didn't get the channel New Japan was on.
Yeah, it was on.
It's on Access or something.
Yeah, I don't get that channel, but I could.
I didn't have an HD box, and it was HD only.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't get a chance to watch it, and I'm like, all right, I can finally see this guy. I'm like, he's in tag team matches, and literally like every match I've seen, I don't know if it was part of the storyline or what, but it's like he's barely been in the ring.
Right.
It's like,
and he doesn't do much in either. It's like, and then it's like,
why is this guy so good?
Yeah, but I mean, if you go back and like watch on YouTube some of his matches, like they're good. They're just not as good as like the internet is making them in a way. You know what I mean? But I think that it comes through like it could be the younger fan that's making them that way, as well. It's like we're a little bit older. We see different style, so we're not necessarily sucked into that. But I did get New Japan for a little while. Unfortunately, it was right before they went off of Access TV. So I only caught from the G1 forward of last year, which I enjoyed watching it, but it always seemed like it was just like mediocre matches put on the 2-hour TV show. It was never like the barn burners. Yeah, it was never like the big matches, but I enjoyed it nonetheless,
Yeah, I'd like to try to watch some of it. I've always heard about it. Japanese wrestling's kind of a real big hole for me. I never got to see a lot of it.
Yeah, I
picked up those horrific FMW DVDs.
The ones that
flat out worst commentary ever.
Yeah, the ones that came out in whatever FYE back in the day in the late 90s, early
hardcore
2000s.
Wrestling made in Japan.
Deathmatch, whatever, and
they give the people horrible nicknames and make up storylines.
Yeah, I remember those. It's funny that you said that. It's because I actually had those on VHS when they first came out. So, I bought them because they were so much cheaper than the actual. I don't think I had a DVD player for a number of years, but yeah. So, I do Japanese wrestling as far as that goes. I kind of stream. I can get the New Japan stuff and stream. They have a Friday night New Japan USA show called New Japan Strong, which is supposed to be really good. I've caught a few minutes of recent episodes, so that's fun. I mean, you've seen guys like Jeff Cobb in there and stuff, and he's like. What happened to him in AEW? He just came in as the enforcer for the Inner Circle and then disappeared.
Yeah. That was weird because once again, he was a Lucha Underground guy and he was incredible in there.
He's awesome.
I know he had a nasty falling out with them, but...
Yeah, I think just about everybody did, and I think that's why it ended up folding.
He was one of the first big ones to kind of start the suing process, but...
There were rumors that he was in talks with WWE just a month ago or 2 months ago, but then that kind of story just kind of went away. Yeah. So it's nobody knows really what's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see him in NXT. If you ever heard him on Jericho's podcast, he said the tryouts for NXT were just at the Performance Center were ridiculous because I guess they separated you in groups, whether you're a real athlete or whether you were a professional wrestler. And he said that he was not on the. Even though he was an Olympic wrestler, he was in that category, and I saw all the lists of real athletes, which is Baron Corbin because he was a boxer or whatever. So I never heard anything like that before. That's the first time I've ever heard anything like that. It was just very bizarre. So, that company, it's just
they come up with the weirdest stuff.
I know. I don't know who comes up with that. If it's Vince or Hunter or who's coming up with that stuff, but it's very bizarre. So
that is you're not a real athlete.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Do you watch the current NXT product?
I did for a bit. I was watching it on the network, and then my internet went to hell basically, and I couldn't watch anything.
Yeah.
And I just started recording it, and I haven't been watching it since it's been on USA.
Yeah.
So I kind of come in and out of it.
There's been kind of a hole since they moved to the USA Network and made it 2 hours.
Definitely. I don't think it should have gone on TV.
Yeah.
It defeats the purpose.
Yeah. And that was the one reason I actually subscribed to the networks was so I could watch that every week. Yeah. Because, it's a lot of the vintage content you can find elsewhere, whether it be YouTube or Daily Motion or wherever, other streaming sites, whatever. But yeah, so all that stuff is like I said, it's kind of gone downhill since moving to the USA Network. And one of the things is I've discussed this before here, that celebrity involvement is always something that's kind of a downhill for the product. Now NXT has actually started that with having Pat McAfee on a week or two ago, at the last pay-per-view. Yeah, at the last pay-per-view he wrestled Adam Cole. So it was better than
celebrity matches very rarely go well.
Yeah, I mean it was definitely better than anticipated, but it was not. It was no barn burner.
That's not saying much.
Right. Right. Did you check out indie stuff at all?
I tried to. I watched Ring of Honor for a bit, and then it switched networks or something, and I couldn't find it. I like going to indie shows. There's just not a lot in my immediate area, unfortunately.
Right.
Basically, I have to go down to like Boston for it, and that's a bit of a hike for me.
Yeah, I can imagine you're in the Manchester area, you said?
I'm north of Portsmouth.
Okay. So that is quite the,
Yeah.
I got bone to pick with you guys. The whole city. Somehow, my last crate that I got from Pro Wrestling Crate ended up there by accident, and it took 2 weeks to get to me. It got lost in the mail and stayed there for about a week.
Postal service has been insane.
Yeah.
My
It's
last
been-
package from High Spots, it was supposed to get here in like 3 days. It took a week and a half. And it like departed Charlotte, and then there was not another scan until it showed up in my mailbox.
That's really bizarre. That's
Like,
really.
and it was the one that it was my Boxomania prize where I won a replica title signed by
wow.
Arn and Tully. So I'm like freaking out. I'm like, this thing cannot be replaced. You
How
know?
much, if you don't mind me asking, how much was that? Because that you have to put in tiers, right, or something like that, or
So
buy certain prices.
It's mystery boxes.
Right.
So the way Boxomania works is it's different prices depending on the prize.
Okay.
This one was a $75 box, and I think they sold 50 of them. And you're guaranteed to get 70, whatever the price of the box is, worth of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like this one, you were guaranteed $75, and they have one grand prize. And they
For
just
the same
have
price.
Yep, so you're not going to lose money on it. The first box, they had a few issues with it. Like the first one was a $50 box, and I got like $40 worth of DVDs.
Yeah, that's no fun.
So that was the first one. They've they fixed it since then. They're really good.
Oh, they're one of my favorite companies. But tell me about the Tully and Arn title. Did you end up getting the title?
Yeah, it finally arrived.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's to the ultimate, like, my favorite tag team of all time, legitimately. So.
Sorry, I'm
That's
trying
all
to
right.
say something.
It's all right. I got kids too, man. That's all right.
Right there.
So the Tully and Arn title, is it what was it? Because I don't watch the Boxomania one because it's not dumb.
I've got it right here if you give me a
Oh
sec.
man. Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Actually, it was one of my recent videos. I shared this baby.
So I must have missed that because I normally catch just
went up,
about every one.
The other day, so.
Okay.
But it's the. If you can.
It's the television title. That's amazing.
Television title, and it's. If you see Arn Anderson. Sorry, I know the background thing with
That's
it.
okay. That's all right.
And Tully Blanchard's over here.
Wow. That's amazing, man. That's great.
And they had auctioned this thing off, and it went for quite a bit of money.
Yep.
But when the person got it, they noticed, if you see right there, the side plate.
The APC, not ABC?
Exactly. So they returned it because of that.
It's pretty incredible. I would have taken it. I would have taken it anyways. That's that's actually one of my favorite belts of all time. The red strap television title. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I would have just, hey, can you give me $50 off or something?
Yeah. Or send me a
Instead,
stack
they
of
returned
DVDs.
it and they used it as the prize for Boxomania, and I got picked for the grand prize.
That's awesome. I don't use the Boxomania. I'm usually on Thursday nights, but it's been about a month since I've went on. I think I watched. What was last week? Who was on last week? I'm trying to remember.
Last week, I'm trying to think. I didn't catch much of it.
I remember I watched, and I was kind of
Mark Henry.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I did watch it, but I was just like, there's really nothing that I wanted to purchase whatsoever. I already had a Mark Henry autograph that I got from Pro Wrestling Loot.
Yep.
And
I had one as well.
Yeah, and I don't really care about
I used to be off on Thursdays and my schedule changed, so by the time I get home, it's like I've missed like everything.
Yeah, they actually upload that to their network, which I thought was kind of crazy. So I was like, do those prices stick if they're uploading it onto their network?
If you message them afterwards, they'll, as long as they still have the item, they'll fulfill it.
Yeah, because
I've done that a few times.
I know I went back and streamed some, and then would comments like, "Hey, is it too late to add this?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, no problem." And then they would just add it to my invoice. But
Yeah.
that's has become my favorite company. I used to order from them many years ago, and when they were just basically VHS, like, distributors for, like, Lucha, and they had very little merch. And they had some shirts. I think they had, like, I think I bought like a brown New Japan shirt from them at one point. And this
Yeah.
was I'm going back like probably like the early 2000s. And then I don't know how they got into the autograph business, but they really, like, I think like this year I kind of just, I didn't collect for a number of years. So this year I started collecting again. Went a little crazy in the springtime, and it was like every other week a box from them was coming in the mail with like all this stuff, because
You're
it was just
pretty accurate there.
yeah, yeah. So I'm like, so as of now, this last month, I was like, I'm going to keep the mystery crate, but I'm kind of slowing down on making more purchases. But I don't know, this New Jack one I'm not too thrilled about. So I think I'm going to do a giveaway as part of my YouTube channel. So
Yeah,
I might do that. Try to get more subscribers that way or something.
I got one of the pictures of New Jack that they had.
Yeah, I've told this one story here before, but he comes off as pretty crazy in like interviews and stuff. And if you watch that episode of Dark Side of the Ring,
I didn't see his, but
it's interesting. So it's definitely very interesting. But he ended up. I was at an ECW show at one point in like '99, 2000, and it was at the Mid Hudson Civic Center, maybe in White Plains, whatever that arena was. I know WWF used to be there. It's like literally when I went to any ECW show, there was always like some sort of fan involvement or riot that was about to break out. And I remember the cops were coming in. Yeah, I remember it's like somehow we were standing by this one area, and it was just like he just came out and was just sitting there with like a Heineken, just drinking, talking shit to, I don't know if you remember Xavier, the guy that from Ring of Honor that just passed. He was like one of the first champions. Like he was there too as like a fan, and like standing next to us, and it was like this is like a couple of years before Ring of Honor formed, but I had known him from working like local indies around here. But like New Jack's sitting there, and then like so all of a sudden there's like riot, and not riot, but it was a lot of fan involvement. There's like a couple fights going on in the crowd. Cops were coming in, and New Jack's just standing there, and we kind of had a mutual friend that was friends with Jason Knight, so he would kind of get his in. We kind of knew him a little bit, so he was just like, "Oh, come on, guys, come on, you got to leave." Like New Jack, I was like, I don't ever remember it was crazy. I remember us trying to get us out of a situation when there was cops going in. It was just really funny because he was just like really noticeably drunk as well. It was just it was a very comical situation, but we made it safe. I'm still here, alive as well. So you said you don't try to get involved with local or go to local indie shows, but you don't get a lot up there. What groups do you have up there? I try to look stuff up because I'm one of those marks that would love to travel.
There's one that runs up in Maine, up in Portland, which is like an hour or so from me.
Is it Limitless, maybe? Is that?
I think so. That sounds right.
I've seen them on.
I was going to go to a show, and then COVID hit, and everything got canceled.
I was going to go up to one of their shows as well, and COVID ruined the whole world. I'm just spending my money on wrestling merch instead of going to shows. I'm
really bummed because I was supposed to meet Animal at a convention in April.
That's really
and
that's pretty awful.
It got postponed due to COVID to November, and well,
most likely,
fortunately, he didn't make it.
Yeah, most likely it's not going to happen. The convention. I mean, we're supposed to go to a convention last week that was going to be pretty big here. A bunch of AEW guys and then a bunch of legends were going to be there. All of a sudden it got canceled probably 3 weeks before they let everybody know. And fortunately they're doing like a lot of the signings virtually with like the same people. They're just going to the promoter's house and doing them through Facebook.
I hope they do something because it was through Boston Wrestling, the Millennium Wrestling Federation.
Yep, it's John Cena Sr.
Yes.
Yes.
They were doing like an 80s thing, and it's supposed to be like Jake the Snake, Animal, Demolition, Paul Orndorff.
Wow. I do have an Orndorff autograph somewhere. I'd have to dig it out here. But Demolition's somebody I never met as well. So I'd like to get into that.
Yeah,
like get an autographed
really
item
excited
from them.
for it, and then
it's terrible. Yeah.
Now it's like, I don't know, if they're going to reschedule it. I mean, I hate to say it, but, you don't know how long some of these guys have.
A lot of people were growing up, and I've always, I've said this a bunch of times recently. It's unfortunately a lot of our childhood heroes are passing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're moving on. It always seems like every other week there's like another wrestler's passing. It's like they're not necessarily even that old. I mean, 60 years old isn't old at all. It's like 15 years older than what I am. So it's like I grew up watching that guy on TV. Like right in. I'm trying to remember the first match I saw him. It had to be like 1985 in the AWA when I was a kid. So, yeah.
Yeah, like King Kong Bundy really hurt me when he died.
Yeah.
It's back in the late 90s, I ran like a internet newsletter.
Oh, really?
And he did him and Tatanka did a show at a high school near the college I was at. And I talked to him beforehand, and I got to do an interview with the two of them for the newsletter.
That's awesome.
And he was like such a nice guy. He was so funny. And then I went in the ring at intermission and get like a Polaroid. And because he knew me, he choked me in the Polaroid. So I have this awesome picture, Tatanka standing there looking tough, and King Kong's just strangling me.
I did meet King Kong Bundy once. He wrestled an indie show, which was at the time it was I guess you can consider an NWA show in the late 90s. Wrestling in Wallingford, Connecticut at a car dealership. There's this car dealership that would have indie shows like either in their parking lot. Yeah, I mean it's like indie shows would pop up in random spots, like that. And then there was a couple of times they had them in their showroom, like they'd move a bunch of the cars out, and then they'd have the ring in the center, and then they'd have just like a bunch of seats. It was a really cool setup because it was like this circular showroom. So it just looked really cool. So
that's neat. I went to one at a Sam's Club once.
Really?
Yeah. It was.
That's pretty awesome.
I grew up. I don't know if you know Salisbury Beach in Massachusetts.
Yep.
I went to junior high and high school there. Lived in there for a while, and there was this small promotion that ran down at the beach. It used to be. It was like NWA Boston or something like that.
NWA New England, maybe?
Maybe. It was
with the
Tony
Rumble?
Bad Boy. Yes.
Tony, I'm a huge fan of his. I love that guy.
He ran it for a while, and then he and the guy who owned the building got into a big dispute about the electrical bill.
Oh,
so they split, and the guy who ran it took over and started his own promotion.
Okay.
But he was indie as heck.
Yeah.
He tried to claim that he had WWE connections because he looked like Tugboat. So he claimed that when Tugboat was sick, I would fill in for him. I'm his cousin.
Yeah, I don't think that happened.
Yeah, and one of his characters, which was actually a kid I went to high school with, was a masked guy who was WWF ring crew. And he would come out and fix the ring, and he talked in this stupid high pitched voice, and it's one of these guys would come out under a mask, but they're still wearing the same trunks and boots.
Yes, yeah. It's funny because they would have these guys, this tag team that worked the area here called the Executioners, and they just they would come out without the mask on, still the same outfit, and they'd work security. You know what I mean? They'd just a security shirt on, still have their tights on. It's hey, wasn't that? Nah. Yeah. So that was the glory. That was the glory of indie wrestling back in the day. Indie wrestling was definitely
honestly
different.
I kind of miss that.
I do too.
Some of my favorite
on
shows
YouTube.
Just little crap shows that
Oh yeah.
Most of the guys never had another match. Or
yeah, it's funny you said that because it's I'm a sucker for older indie wrestling from the 80s and 90s. I'm on YouTube, and one of my favorite promotions, Boston Bad Boy Tony Rumble worked with was ICW/IWCCW, and I think they folded in 95. Are you familiar with them at all?
I remember. I think I read about them in PWI or something.
Most likely, yeah. The Savoldis, and it's I always go back. It's for some reason that promotion holds a special place in my heart. It was I saw Kevin Sullivan there for the first time, before he returned to the NWA, and Purple Haze and all these crazy people. Woman when she was his wife, and she looked all crazy doing that satanic gimmick. So it's like, but is especially like in the New England area has like a very special wrestling history in the independent circuit in like the 80s and 90s. So I always try to seek out like collectibles, like flyers or programs. I used to have a really vast like program collection of like 80s and wrestling programs from the area, from like New Hampshire, New Jersey, and all that stuff. And somehow it all, I think when I moved from my folks' house, they all went away. So eventually, yeah.
I've lost so much stuff over the years that I'm like going nuts trying to find.
I had so many great VHS tapes of tons of wrestling that I recorded, and it's all gone. But it's, and thankfully for YouTube, I can find most of it. But some of the smaller indie stuff from the 80s and 90s.
No one's ever uploaded that.
Yeah, I mean, I do find plenty of the ICW, the IWCCW stuff, and I do find plenty of that. But some stuff is, it's just really obscure and hard to find. I mean, but they had like national TV, across the entire country, on like major sports networks for periods of time. But it was just a bizarre company altogether, though, to be honest with you. It was a lot of fun. And I ended up, I would meet guys like Tony Rumble like years later. I got to see him when he worked with the NWA New England. And then he ended up with I think that turned into the CWA, Century Wrestling Alliance, or maybe it was vice versa.
Yeah, it turned into CWA, and then...
Yeah, because they ran shows in Connecticut.
After that.
I think he passed, and then the guy ended up, I think... somebody took it over when he died. And I think his wife's, kept ownership slightly from what I remember. And then, but she basically had one of the guys run it. So one of his best friends run it or something like that. I mean, because I actually looked it up because they did come to Connecticut a bunch of times. So I enjoyed watching it. Those were some of the fun shows. And back then you can go to like an indie show, not necessarily, a lot of big stars, but you go to some high school gym and the place would be packed. It's like sometimes nowadays you go to an indie show, there's not necessarily a lot of names, or maybe there'll be like one name and there'll be like 50 people sitting there.
You go to a WWE show now and the place is like a tenth full.
I know. I haven't been. Well, last year I went to 2 WWE shows. It was the first time I had been to WWE shows in a very long time. And both of them were pay-per-views. I went to Mania and then.
Oh, nice. I've never been to a Mania.
I'm into 2. They're pretty. It's a long haul. It's definitely it's like an event, and make sure. And then now they do the whole outdoor arena thing. You got to make sure. I brought a jacket and it was still freezing, and so it's you have to come prepared. I was totally unprepared last year because I went to 11 when it was in Hartford, and
oh, nice.
It was fun. But I was 19 or 20 at the time, so
it
was quite enjoyable. But
I wanted to go different. To 14, but I couldn't.
Where was that?
That was in Boston.
Oh, okay.
That was Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels.
Legendary.
Yes.
Legendary. Yeah. I'm not. Are you a huge Attitude Era fan?
I enjoyed it a lot. That was like my late high school, college years.
Okay.
So it was when I was really involved. I had my newsletter.
Yeah.
I could watch it. I had the free time.
Yeah.
So I was really into it.
I think that's you go back now because I've tried to watch it. It doesn't hold up.
No, there was a lot of garbage. I was talking about with a friend of mine today. I'm like, there was some really good stuff, and there was some really, really bad stuff.
Well, you're starting, I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch this random pay-per-view. I can't even think of the name of it, but I was just like, I'm going to try this out. And then it's like Gold Dust comes out with like the ball gag, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, it's all right, never mind. TV.
Yeah, it's like, okay. But then it's like the worst part about it is the crowd does not react a lot either. It's very bizarre. It's like a lot of it does not hold up. Some of the main event stuff does, and it's just, and then the undercard they always would give like the cruiserweights or lightweights, whatever you want to call them at that time period, like 3-minute matches or something.
Well, that was the funny thing is WWE always had like top-notch main events. WCW, the undercard was incredible.
Yeah,
it's like if they ever could have gotten that mix together.
WCW was always There at that time period, the main event was all older guys from WWF, and it was just like,
And it was always
yeah,
NWO runs in, there's a beatdown, crowd throws
yeah.
garbage into the ring.
That's one of the things that always annoyed me. There'd be some really great match, say Malenko and I don't know Mysterio or Guerrero or
Yeah.
whatever, and all of a sudden NWA would run in 3 minutes later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to switch headphones.
Sure.
So hang on. I'm just gonna put you on pause. Hang on.
Sure.
Because I gotta plug my phone in. Let me find the wire first off. Keep talking. Well, tell me more about your newsletter while I handle this, because I didn't know you had a newsletter.
I did. Basically, there was a guy who ran one. I don't remember what the name of it was now. But I started just writing articles for him, and then he didn't want to do it anymore, so he put me in charge of it, and I ran it for a while.
Okay. So before that little disturbance in the force, Joe, you were informing me of your newsletter you had.
Yep. So I don't even know how I found it, but some guy through, like, if you remember, like, the late 90s, there would be all these, like, random wrestling news sites. They usually had, like, no real news whatsoever on them.
Yeah.
Someone on there had, like, a newsletter that was actually pretty good. I want to say it was called the Gorilla Press, but I could be wrong on that. It's been quite a while.
Yeah, I think that sounds familiar. Yeah,
And
this is from your area? Or?
I don't know where he was located. It was like an email newsletter.
Okay.
And I submitted some articles to him, and he published them. He really liked my writing.
Yep.
And then eventually he decided he really didn't want to do it and had me take it over. And then we had some issues, because I was in college at the time and I wasn't getting things out as fast as he wanted it to.
Right.
And he decided he didn't want me to do it anymore, so I decided to start up my own, which I called the Submission Hold, which is a article name I'd used since like middle school for like wrestling and like the school newspaper.
Right. That's awesome.
And I ran that for, I want to say, a little more than a year, and then I didn't have my own computer at the time. I was doing this in like the school computer lab. When I went home for the summer, I just couldn't do it. I didn't have enough access to the internet or anything. And I ended up just closing it down. Someone else was supposed to help me run it, and then she just kind of disappeared on me.
Right. Well, that's no fun. So how many issues did you do? You did it over a year, so you did was that weekly, monthly, bi-weekly?
Yeah, it was weekly, so I did probably like 60-ish issues, we'll say.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty impressive. That's awesome. Did you reach out to, say, organizations like locals, organizations or wrestlers or whatever, or you just shared your news? How'd you get news?
Mostly news. Like I said, I did the interview with King Kong Bundy and Tatanka.
Right.
I tried to get a few others, but nothing ever came through.
That sounds familiar, because I do reach out to a lot of people, and it's really nice when you get a reply. It's really not cool if you're a complete asshole about it. I've gotten a couple guys that are just kind of dicks about it. But there are I've gotten a lot of times you're ignored. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're trying to get an interview. I mean, I actually reached out to Jeff Jarrett, and he responded within like 5 minutes saying, that he was unable to because of his contract. You know what I mean? The same thing with Tommy Dreamer and Steve Corino. They're basically all under contract to other companies and media sources, so they're not able to. But I've heard back. So I'm trying to reach out to a lot of people. I reach out to people every day, basically. So I'm trying to reach out. It's a local indie that a lot of people know me because I'm at like basically every single show. So, a lot of those guys just be like, yes, you know what I mean? So I've been very lucky in that sense that a lot of those guys are always willing to come on and help out. So
that's cool.
That's where I get a lot of those, a lot of the interviews mostly. And we had Duke the Dumpster Drosy on. That was like, that was pretty
I met
awesome as
him
well.
once.
Really? He was a cool
It was,
guy. He was so much fun to talk to.
the second live show I ever saw was at the Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, at the casino. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've ever been there.
I don't think so.
It's supposedly a music venue, but it's basically the place is a fire trap. It's this
Right.
really small building, and they ran a WWE house show there. And I mean, it was
in the mid-90s. Well, during his
yeah,
time period, probably.
it was like Triple H was like just starting out in WWE. Man Mountain
Right.
Rock was there.
It's funny you bring that name up. It's so funny because I forget that he even was in WWF at one time period. Because then it's like, and then I'll be watching some random video and he'll be playing guitar in the middle of the ring. It's like, oh god, like you can definitely tell time period as to what was going on in professional wrestling at the time. Like everything was
He was one
just,
of the nice ones. He actually signed.
yeah.
There were a few
Oh really?
people who were real jerks. Yeah. Triple
Uh,
H lied to me, and I've never forgiven him.
that's
Because I
funny.
loved him when he was in WCW as
Yeah.
Terrorizing.
Yep.
I thought he was incredible. I was so excited when he went to WWF. I'm like, oh my god, I get to see him. And it was one of these like there was no reserved seating unless you had like the special VIP. So I
Right.
literally waited outside the building for like 2.5 hours because I wanted to get as
Oh
close
wow.
as I could. And this is,
Wow.
August at the beach. It's hot. It's miserable.
Right.
And I saw a few of the wrestlers, so I went over and asked for autographs because they were just out enjoying the beach. Because it's
Yep.
literally like Beach Street, the venue.
Oh wow.
And it was Man Mountain Rock and Triple H were there, and I asked for their autographs. Man Mountain Rock's like, oh yeah, sure, and he signed the thing for me. Triple H is like, oh, I gotta go get ready for my match. I'm gonna sign after. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right.
Right.
So I literally waited outside for like an hour and a half and found out that he'd like split right after his match. Because he lived locally at the time, so it was like
Right.
a half-hour drive for him home or something.
Wow.
It's like, oh, come on.
What'd you
I've
think of
actually
your
seen him
interaction?
twice, and he was a jerk both times.
That's weird because I've heard, well, I have heard that he's been a jerk, but I've also heard a couple stories where he's been like a really nice guy. I've never met him, but I do enjoy his work. But certain guys I just really wouldn't go out of my way to meet, and that's probably I wouldn't really go out of my way to meet him.
Well,
So,
the second time it was when he was in DX, when he was
okay,
with like China. And it was actually my wife's best friend, her college graduation. We went out to a restaurant in Manchester.
right,
Oh, sorry about that. My
that's all
dog just
right.
slammed into my computer.
I'm getting, I am getting a dog soon, and I'm excited. I've been begging my wife to get a
Yeah.
dog. So, sorry,
Yeah.
different
So
subject.
he was at the restaurant, and the waiter came up and she's like, "Hey, if anyone's a WWE fan, Triple H is here. Please don't bother him." Like, okay, because I hate when celebrities get bothered when they're eating and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah, they deserve their private time. Yeah,
exactly, So I wasn't gonna go up to him or anything, and I just, I had to use the restroom. And on the way there, he had like a table against the wall. And then there's like, the row, like a booth against the wall. It's like the row of tables in the center, and then like another thing of booths. And then I was on the other side of it. And I saw him in China, and I just kind of did like the shocked, like whoa thing, and just kind of smiled and waved. China looked up at me. She smiled and gave me a little wave. Triple
yeah.
H turned his head away from me and stared at the wall.
Wow.
Like, I'm not jumping over the booths to come see you. I'm not bothering you. I just want a little smile and a wave.
Yeah, just say hello.
It's like, this is the second time you've been a jerk. And then, of course, he becomes like the biggest star in the company. And I'm like,
Right. Well,
yep,
it's now he's part of the family.
yeah.
So,
It's like,
he'll be
ah.
rumor is he'll be
Just put your
taking it
signature on
over.
that piece of paper for me.
Yeah, and so it's like, it's always that chance meeting with somebody if could rub you the wrong way and set
Yeah.
your opinion up forever. I've been pretty lucky for the most part. Like everybody's been pretty cool. I have met a couple that have not been so pleasant.
Yeah.
Kurt Hennig was one of those people.
Really?
He was not, I've always heard stories about how like nice he was and all this other such. And course, he was doing a Mr. Perfect signing, or at an arcade. It was Mr. Perfect at the time period, and I had a AWA program with me because I'm an idiot. That I'm not going to bring a WWF thing because I was a huge AWA fan. So I brought this thing. It was just like, I don't want a Mr. Perfect thing. I want to sign cool Kurt Hennig. And he just like, you want me to sign this Kurt Hennig? Yeah, please. Like he's just like, he made me feel very uncomfortable. So, but it is what it is.
That's the thing, is I like to get like alternate character autographs.
Yeah.
And it's always like, so awkward. It's like, will he sign as Repo Man or won't he?
Right. Well, I know certain people do.
Yeah.
They'll do that. It's like Little Guido recently. My buddy Andy just got an autograph and he just signed it. Little Guido, Damian Stone, Nunzio. It's like he signed all the names. It's like pretty much all the characters are the same with the exception of the Damian Stone, which is like his earliest character.
I actually saw that one.
It's pretty much the Indies before he went to ECW. I remember him working in Indy here at the local fair. He got his ass whooped basically. So he was probably like, if you look at him, he was probably in better shape than the guy that whooped his ass. But it's just funny because like 2 years later, he's like, I wouldn't say he was a huge star, but he's a pretty big star on ECW. So I was like,
Tag team champion. He had a good run.
Yeah.
Can't complain about his career at all.
No, I don't think he can either. I always enjoyed his work. I met him once, I think, at an ECW show many years ago, and he was kind of neutral. I mean, because it's just like one of those things. They had like a signing prior to the pay-per-view that we were attending, and
yeah, that's always chaotic.
Yeah, and some of the people were, like, this is probably, it has to be like 99, 2000. And we drove to Buffalo, New York, okay? Mind you, it's November to remember. It's freezing up there at that time of year. We're like less than an hour from Canada because we drove into Canada during the day before the show. And it's just pure chaos, It's just like, but we got to meet some really nice people. Like guys like Joel Gertner was really cool. Dawn Marie was really cool. Jack Victory was like working there at the time. But it was just Jerry Lynn, it was just those shows were always just really odd, to go to.
I got to meet Nova once. He was pretty cool.
All right. I have a funny story. About that before 1994, 95. I saw him on an indie show in New Jersey, an NWA show, I should say. Dennis Corluzzo, NWA. He's coming out, and me being trying to play to make fun of the baby faces, I kind of flipped him off, and he stopped, right? And he's like, I saw you. I was like, I didn't expect that. So it was just.
I went to college in Baltimore, and I went to a Maryland Championship Wrestling event.
Oh, yeah.
And he and Steve Carino were there. And I got both of their signatures.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I wish I had gone to more of their shows.
That was always a good group. I actually had some VHSs of theirs. I think I used to get them from RF back in the day, but I no longer purchase from them.
Actually, for one of my school papers, I did an interview with the guy who ran the company.
With Maryland Championship Wrestling?
I think he wrestled as like Major Payne or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the show I was at, I think he broke his hand or came damn close.
Oh, damn.
He did like a street fight or something, and like they tried to do a thing where you like punched through a grate or something, and it was plastic, and it just like shredded his hand.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's.
Which, if you know, the laws around Maryland wrestling was rather dangerous because they were not much on blood at that time.
Yeah, that's one of the things I always find.
Balls Mahoney actually got banned from wrestling in the state.
I saw him get into a fight with a fan at an indie show here because I don't know. I'm trying to remember exactly how it happened because me and my buddy were at a show and I think somebody was heckling him, and needless to say, he just climbed out of the ring, and next thing you know, everybody was like involved. Yeah. And I was just like, this is all right. Now the show's over. Show's over.
During a match, he was told not to bleed. He intentionally bladed, and he and the other guy went into the woman's bathroom, like as part of the brawl. And the daughter of like one of the state athletic commissioners or something was in there.
And the
and
whole thing.
yeah, they almost canceled the promotion, and he had his license pulled. As far as I know,
Wow.
he never was allowed to wrestle in the state of Maryland again.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, a bunch of us were going to go down to the state house and protest with signs saying, "Give us back our balls," but
That's funny.
everyone chickened out.
So you collect a lot of, how many autographs do you have? You collect a lot, right?
Oh, jeez, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I've got multiple, the Atoya folders.
Yeah.
I've got 3 or 4 of those that are pretty much full.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What do you got coming? You got anything good coming in?
Yeah, actually, one of the High Spots auctions, I got a Rey Mysterio mask.
Ooh.
Not ring worn, it's a commercial mask, but
Commercial masks. Yeah.
yeah,
That's pretty cool, though.
that I'm very excited for.
That's awesome. I don't
Yeah.
think I have anything. I have nothing coming in, surprisingly. I really don't, other than like next month's Pro Wrestling Loot, which is already paid for. So,
Yeah.
whenever that comes in, probably. Actually,
Next month's supposed to have a Rey Mysterio item in it, so.
every time they say item, it ends up being an 8x10. It doesn't end up being anything specific, like an
Yeah.
item. You know what I mean? So it's like I've kind of given up on thinking that it's going to be something really cool. You know what I mean? Other than
Yeah, I like the 8x10, so.
Yeah, no, I do. I'm kind of a sucker for them.
I've got a mystery one. It's supposed to ship mid-October. I'm kind of interested in.
Some wrestling.
Yeah, it's Dark Parlor Originals.
I'm not familiar with that.
They do a lot of signings. They do a lot of signed Funko Pops and stuff.
Right.
They had an Undertaker one that unfortunately sold out before I found out about it. But they do some mystery envelopes.
Yeah.
The last one they did was current WWE stars, and I got Kevin Owens and Natalia out of it.
That's pretty cool.
The next one is supposed to be it's themed Attitude Era. So yeah, I'm like, this could either be really good or it could be really bad. There's so much.
You're gonna get a Kurgan autograph.
I actually wouldn't mind that one.
No, it's funny.
I'm hoping that it's like, someone who's like,
relevant.
Towards the top. I mean, obviously, I'm like,
right.
I'm not getting The Rock. I'm not getting Steve Austin. You're not getting that out of a $55 envelope.
No, because I mean, what's
maybe like Shawn Michaels, and then someone like Kurgan or The Godfather, or someone like fairly low level.
Godfather's supposed to be doing a signing around here, too. So sometime, I don't know if it's like next month or the month after. There's like that store that I was telling you about that has like 2-3 signings like a month. Just Incredible seems to be there every week because he lives like 20 minutes from
Yes, he lives in that area, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's like, I live in Hamden, Connecticut. He lives in Waterbury. I got to drive to Waterbury just about, twice a week to bring my son to basketball camp, So it's like, it's really close. But I've actually spoken to him before and ran into him. And he's just like, the funny part about it is many times I've met him and ran into him in public and spoken to him online, he does not remember me at all. Like, and it's like, I've literally probably like met him like 15, 20 times. Like, it's just.
He took a lot of headshots.
Yeah, and there's also other things involved as well. So, but I actually ran into him at like he always claims he remembers me, but I'm just like, I can tell he doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just
like when you meet that distant cousin.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, that's right. We met when we were 3.
Yeah, but I mean, he's always very nice, and I think that he's very appreciative of his fans, that people will go in, buy his autographs and his ring-worn gear. He actually gave away his jockstrap not so long ago. I mean mask. I know what
mask. You mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, he actually auctioned it off, and so it's like, between him and Bob Backlund, because Backlund lives like an hour away. He's at that same location at least like once a month. Like Just Incredible's there like every Sunday, it seems like. So
that's cool. I wish I had something like that near here.
It's pretty bizarre. So if you ever want anything, like I could always contact you and say, hey, these guys are coming up this month, because I go to almost all of them.
Yeah.
So they're always enjoyable to go to.
Yeah.
I always buy it.
Last guy I got to meet was Xavier Woods.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Are you into gaming at all?
No. No, I'm not. My kid is because that's all he does.
There's a big convention that goes on in Boston. It's
Okay.
PAX East.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go to that every year, and he's been playing Dungeons and Dragons live during it,
Oh wow.
and he was
Yeah,
doing a signing.
I heard he was
So
a gamer. Yeah, actually,
yeah,
a lot of guys are now. I mean,
yeah, he runs like the gaming channel for WWE on YouTube and stuff.
all right.
Like he was like so nice. He
That's
was having
cool.
so much fun. The year before, I'm still kicking myself. I didn't realize because it's Up Up Down Down is the name of the channel.
Yep.
And I didn't realize that was a WWE thing. I hadn't heard of it because I really didn't watch much YouTube then. And it turned out that he was there, Alexa Bliss, Tyler Breeze. It's a guy in NXT. I don't remember his name. I haven't seen him much. I don't know why he hasn't gotten over because he was funny as hell during the show.
Huh.
He's a large African American guy. I don't know. I cannot think of his ring name for the life of me.
Trying to think of who you may be referring to. Not Keith Lee.
No.
Because he's in Raw now. He's on Raw now.
No, he was more like muscular.
I don't know who's in NXT that way now, like that now.
Yeah, I think he's still in NXT. I'm not sure.
The only person that keeps coming to mind is like Big E, but he's been out of NXT for years. You know.
No.
Like, yeah, you know.
No, he's more built than.
Yeah. I'm totally drawing a blank on this.
Yeah,
you know,
but he was like so entertaining. Just watching him play D&D, and like his character had lost an eye, so he came out with an eye patch on and wore it through the whole thing. And it's like, why hasn't unless this guy totally sucks in the ring, why hasn't he been brought up yet? He is so entertaining on the mic.
I love NXT. But I get sorely disappointed when people leave NXT to go to Raw or SmackDown because I know that they're going to be completely different. One of my favorites, Keith Lee, that I just mentioned, he's like one of my favorites. I think he's like so awesome. And then they bring him up, he changes gear, he changes music, and he's just not the same. It's like he's like one of the greatest wrestlers in wrestling today, to be honest with you.
Or was it Adam Rose that they completely destroyed because Vince had no idea what a rave was?
Yeah. Really?
That was from what I heard, yeah. He didn't get the whole rave thing.
Oh,
so he stopped pushing it.
He's 75 years old.
Yeah.
Well, now he is, but he doesn't.
Yeah,
a lot of things he doesn't.
I'm trying to think. There was that tag team. They were like super dominant in NXT, and then they did nothing when they brought them up.
It could be two tag teams, which would be that come to mind, which was the LOD ripoff, the Ascension.
The Ascension, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, because I thought that they were pretty impressive. They're like an LOD type thing.
They were like these powerhouses in NXT.
Yeah.
So it was like when I was watching, like they were destroying everybody.
Yeah.
And they got called up, and they were like treated like jokes.
Yeah, they're jobbing every week, and like they didn't. Like right away too. It's like it didn't even seem like they.
Yeah, they never even gave him a chance.
Yeah, and there was no way that they could get over. But I guess they're still teaming on the Indies, and well, they're going to be. I guess last 7 months they haven't done crap because there hasn't been anything. But... So yeah, you into music at all? What do you listen to?
My music taste is very weird.
Yeah.
Quite literally. I've seen Weird Al in concert 10 times.
I've seen him once. I saw him, and you'll probably laugh. 1987. I saw him open for the Monkees.
The Monkees, yes, I was gonna say that.
So I'm still a huge Monkees fan, and the TV show, and I did see him, and now it's like I actually just picked up In 3D on vinyl. That so I found it for
it's a good album.
Yeah, it's awesome. As a kid, that's pretty awesome.
He puts on an incredible live show.
Yeah, so I've heard. Obviously it's been like 30-something years since I've seen him. So
he has a couple of DVDs out of his live shows that are worth checking out.
Yeah, I know we played one of the casinos over here not that long ago. Well, not really over here, but like an hour drive. But in Connecticut, so
and,
I should check them out one day.
I like I call it heavy metal. There's some debate amongst metal fans, but like Metallica, AC/DC,
Yeah.
Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
I went to Ozfest back in '99, so I got to see a ton
Yeah.
of guys.
So like harder rock, or I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not gonna say that it's not metal, because
yeah.
metal
Well, I have a
metal is
friend
such a,
who's like like obsessed metalhead.
yeah.
Like he knows literally like every single freaking indie band, and it's like
Yeah. No, that's
yeah.
funny that you say that,
Like,
because
oh,
it's like,
Drive By Bukkake is awesome. And I'm like, what did you say? Like the stuff he's into, it's like scissor fights. Like there was like 10 people at the show. It was like their biggest show ever.
yeah, dude, that's fucking hilarious that you said that, because it's true though.
Yeah,
Like, it's like, I worked at a rock club up until like 3 years ago, and it was like, part time, 3, 4 nights a week. I did everything from security to working in the kitchen to whatever. And it's like some of the bands you'd see in there, it's like, oh God. People are
yeah,
making a big deal about it. There's like 5 people in the crowd, like they're girlfriends basically.
yeah.
So it's like, and then two dudes
Someone bought
moshing.
a ticket.
Yeah.
We can split a Happy Meal.
It's funny. So, but
Okay.
like metal is like such a wide,
Oh
like,
yeah.
genre. It's like there's all these like little subgenres, and like whether it's like,
It's insane. It's like
yeah,
post-apocalyptic German techno funk metal. Like,
yeah.
what the
I
hell?
don't,
It just used to
yeah,
be metal. I
yeah. There
don't.
was there was always like Black Sabbath, and then
Yeah.
there was like Striper. All of a sudden, it was like there's like 50 different kinds of thrash
Oh, yeah.
crossover, which I like thrash and crossover, but not so much the other
Yeah.
stuff anymore. I'm getting too old to like really be into metal these days. I guess it's not really an excuse, but I don't listen to a lot today. But I tried listening the other day. It's like I was talking metal on Monday night with the guy Danny Adam, and then I just happened to put on a playlist on my Apple Music, and some of the weirdest stuff came on. That was like, some of it was like very symphonic, and some of it was
Yeah.
like you said, folky, and some of it was like very progressive. It was just,
Yeah. It's so
it was
weird.
very bizarre styles, and it was just supposed to be like, I thought I put on a thrash station, so
Yeah. Yeah. I got Sirius XM recently, and
yeah.
some of the metal channels on there. I'm like, what the hell is this crap?
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
Yeah.
I guess the Ozzy's Boneyard is supposed to be a good one.
Oh, that's a good one. That one I love
Yeah.
listening to. It's
Um,
like somehow I'd never really heard Iron Maiden, and I picked it up on there. I'm like, why haven't I been listening to these guys? They're
right.
incredible.
Yeah, that's a group that I kind of ignored over, like,
Yeah.
it was always like Iron Maiden or Judas Priest, and I kind of always ignored Iron Maiden. And I was like a huge Judas Priest fan when I was younger. But as I got older, I'm just like, wait, I know all these songs. So
Yeah.
I don't know how I ignored them. But and it's like probably one of like the best bands. I mean, so many people hold them as like the holy grail of like metal, or English metal in the 80s. So
Let's see.
there's
I'm also
also,
into nerdcore rap. If you're familiar with that at all,
I've heard of it.
guys
I'm
like
not
MC
really
Lars, MC Frontalot, Whitey Cracker.
I've heard of some of this stuff. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily familiar with it though. I
Yeah.
definitely, I actually watched this guy that started talking about this stuff recently on YouTube. So this guy called Punk Rock MBA, I think that's called. He does like all these description videos of like the history of certain kinds of punk rock and metal and new metal and all this other crap. And he actually discussed that recently, and I was like, I've never heard of this. It
Yeah.
just sounds like the most bizarre, like,
It's
video game
weird,
music
but I
or
like
something.
it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Then
check it out.
I like show tunes a lot too.
Nothing wrong with it.
I'm a
I used to.
huge fan of musical theater, so
That's awesome though. That's great. I used to buy this old magazine called Incredibly Strange Music, which would always have stuff like that, but it was like always really the bizarre kind of novelty stuff,
yeah.
such as like that kind of stuff. It was very cool. Like you'd find out some of the most weirdest like pop vocal stuff and show tune stuff from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And it's just very, it was very entertaining to go read all these album reviews and then go try to find all these albums.
Yeah, I remember BMG, like the music company.
Yep.
I signed
Yep.
up for them in college, and I remember one of my shipments, my roommate laughed his butt off when I opened the thing. I got in an Ozzy Osbourne CD, Jesus Christ Superstar soundtrack,
That's classic.
Aerosmith Greatest Hits, and the Best of the Muppet Show.
There you go. That's funny.
He's
I
like,
used to.
their advertising department must just scream when your orders come through.
The funny part about this is I belonged to those like so many times, and it's just like no matter how many times, like remember like a lot of people just sign up and then not pay.
Yeah,
They just get that initial shipment. It's like, oh, 12 CDs for a penny.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I would do that all the time. It's be like I'd probably order another one or two and then just forget, and then that'd be it. But that was always a blast, man. And just like find the most stuff that I probably would not go out of my way and purchase. You know
Well,
what I
yeah,
mean?
some of my favorite CDs are ones where I forgot to mail in the card.
Yeah, I think that's how I ended up getting like a. That's how I discovered the Smiths.
Yeah.
It's like groups like that, like British pop, like 80s British pop records.
Dimebag Darrell. That's where I first heard him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that guy. Not familiar. I'm not a fan of the vocalist for his band, but he
Well,
just
it was like his side project that he started. It was
yeah.
like just before he died.
Trying to remember what that was called.
Damage Plan? Does that sound right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, he was quite the talented guitar player, though. But
He
it's
was.
tragic what happened to him.
That was horrible.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have too many lunatics out there. So,
That's for damn sure.
yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. I mean, the wrestling world was filled with them, to be honest with you. But
Oh, yeah. I know. I've seen some
especially-
insane fans at shows.
Yeah, especially on the internet. You can't have an opinion. I'm not sure
Oh, no.
if you're aware of that. You're not allowed to have an opinion when it comes to professional wrestling. So you're going to be told
Anything.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like even if you like, if you like WWE, you're wrong. If you hate WWE, you're wrong.
Wrong. Yeah.
You're an AEW mark. If you like WWE or
Oh, yeah, I know. Some guy attacked me. I made that comment about them AEW only pushing WWE guys. And he's like making fun of He's like, homegrown talent. It's like they're pushing the names. I'm like, they're not even names.
Who do they have that? To be honest with you, getting back on wrestling, but who do they have that they could push that's going to be that next level guy? Out of like it's not even necessarily. It's like they signed every big indie guy.
Yeah.
Who do you think, in your opinion, do you think that they could push to take that title?
Well,
Orange Cassidy can't win the title. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like they can't market.
Well, I said it before, but Pentagon definitely could hold the title.
He held the Impact title.
Yeah, if they really gave him a chance and let him be him, he could be awesome. Phoenix is incredible. He once again could hold it. Trying to think. I'm not entirely familiar with all the names on their roster.
I know there's so many guys there that it's like you forget who's in there sometimes.
Honestly, I was disappointed with what they did with Warhorse.
They only brought him in for one match, didn't they?
They only brought him in for the one match, and
disappeared.
It followed the same formula every one of Cody's matches was following.
And Cody, I hate to say this, he is definitely, you can tell by his booking style that he is his father's son. He's like going to put himself over.
I mean, he wasn't just putting himself over. It's, he'd get the early offense. He'd miss a move. The indie guy would get to show off their big moves.
Right.
Then they would miss one of their moves. Cody would hit them with whatever that finisher he uses is called, that neck breaker thing.
Crossroads.
Right? Yeah, Crossroads, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever.
I can't even remember.
Yeah.
It's like, because I liked... I'm trying to think. Sonny Kiss. He was Exolicious in Lucha Underground, and showed off a lot of talent, a lot of moves. I wasn't expecting him to necessarily win the belt, but I'm like, and then it was like, I think the next week was Warhorse or vice versa, and I'm like, this is the same exact match.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Sonny Kiss. I think it's not that I'm against anything that he is, not at all. It's the character's too over the top. Just like
he worked well in Lucha.
That's what I hear, and I've seen him a long time. You know what I mean? It's like I think I saw him wrestle. I don't know if you're familiar with like Colossal Mike Law at all.
Oh, it's ringing a bell.
Probably like this tall. calls himself Colossal. But he's an indie guy and he works here a lot. And he was working for Capital Wrestling. I believe it's out of New Jersey. So and I
It
believe
sounds
that
vaguely familiar.
they're on Fight. I don't know if you use Fight at all. Which,
No, I want to get into it. I haven't.
you should, because there's so much free content on there as far as wrestling goes.
Yeah.
Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Now the NWA is on there under the United Wrestling Network. There's a lot of free content, and then they have pay-per-views and other such items there. It's a great network. I've discovered some wrestling I probably would not normally have heard of otherwise through their independent wrestling, like smaller groups, like a random town in Tennessee or some crap. It's quite fun because I'm a huge sucker for Southern wrestling as well. Like I grew up watching Memphis and Texas stuff, so it's always fun to discover stuff like that. Anyways, back
I'll have
to
to check it out.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's like I always, I'll order like the NWA pay-per-views when they have them. They haven't done anything for a while, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they get their feet back under them and start running. I heard that they're going to definitely start doing it again. They put that message out a couple times this past week that Power's going to return. Do you watch the NWA at all?
I watched, I think, one of them.
Yeah.
Once again, it's just my internet was horrible and I couldn't even watch an episode. It kept cutting out on me. But I definitely want to because I really like Thunder Rosa a lot.
Oh, she's my favorite. But now she's in AEW. I mean, they're sharing.
Yeah, they're kind of jumping back and forth.
Yeah, which I was like completely surprised. I was actually one of the things I was happy that she was in AEW because I got to see her on TV more. Because like I told you, she's just one of my favorites. Wrestlers, not just women wrestlers, just wrestlers today.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit disappointed because I was just like, this means she's just going to leave the NWA when the NWA, I mean, the NWA is not doing anything, but it's like she's just could ultimately. But then I found out it's just not true. They're sharing talent because NWA is not necessarily really doing anything outside of now they're doing the Tuesday night shows in California, the United Wrestling Network Primetime Live, which is so the NWA talent is working there, and then some of them, I guess the AEW's gonna have a couple NWA people working with them, and I'm hoping that Nick Aldis, Brian, the NWA champion, makes an appearance because I'm a huge fan of his too. That guy's just awesome.
Yeah, I've got to see a little bit of him, not much. I want to see more.
Yeah,
I've heard so much good stuff about him, and just
he's like one of those really just great traditional style professional wrestler, like very old school. I mean, I don't know if you watched TNA at the time. I sure as hell didn't because I gave up on it for a while because it just pissed me off one day. I'll explain that story, but it's like he was in TNA as like Magnus, so I don't know if it's like part of like the British.
Kind of flirted with TNA, but I never really got into it.
Well, they irritated me one day because they kept promoting the 10-10-10, which was October 10th, 2010, as like going to be this ginormous event that's going to shock and change TNA wrestling. All it turned into was Bischoff and Hogan talking for an hour, the first hour of the program.
Oh my! I remember hearing about that.
I literally shut the show off and I didn't go back until 2018. So I shut it up. I said I can't. And then my friends.
The problem is every time I find it, they switch networks.
Yeah. Well, now they're on Twitch. If you watching on, if you ever use Twitch, they stream.
I just started using Twitch.
I discovered Twitch by accident when I found out AAA was running a show on there for free. I was like, awesome! I can watch some Lucha Libre for free on this app. Next thing you know, there's all this wrestling content just being produced on there. So I'm just like,
I'm gonna have to check it out. I knew TNA was on there. I didn't know anyone else was.
Yeah, AAA has their own channel, and they hold some of their biggest events on there for free, which is incredible. Cool. Like the Triple Mania, it's like one time you walk. It's like, and then they'll have like an English link as well, where like Matt Stryker is commentating. So that's
cool. Really, I like him as a commentator.
I do too. It's weird because I bought a CZW pay-per-view just out of boredom one day during the pandemic because I was just like, there's no wrestling, but they were running stuff in their dojo, like 14. Yeah. So
I realized they were still around. Wow.
That's unfortunate, but I don't know how much longer because there's like a lot of bad names going on, like news going around about the owner. So, being
There's a lot of that going around, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know it's unfortunate that the wrestling business has gotten to that. But I guess I rented that pay-per-view, and he was actually commentating on that, which I thought that him associated with CZW was just weird in itself.
That is weird.
Yeah,
he's like,
what's that? Yeah, he's just like,
yeah, I mean, it's like the opposite of him.
Yeah, exactly, because it's like that's kind of I don't want to call it a trash promotion, a garbage promotion, but
garbage wrestling, you know.
Yeah. It's a term that's not really it's not really used.
Let's use a weed whacker and suspend some guy from the ceiling by his piercings.
Did you watch the WWE pay-per-view this weekend?
No, I didn't. I forgot it was on.
Well, I kind of give up on WWE pay-per-views. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, I can't find anything positive about it. But so everybody's like, oh, the ladder match in the beginning. I'll give it a try. First off, it went a half hour, which I thought was a bit too long.
A long ladder.
Yeah. Sami Zayn took handcuffs and put him in Jeff Hardy's earring and then attached it to the ladder. I'm like, this is not going to go well. Like, and then I was like, and Jeff Hardy lifts up the ladder and he's like walking with it close to his head. I said, anything could happen right now. Like, he could drop that or it could slip and he's going to rip his ear out. Like,
yeah, no, thank you. Don't want to watch that.
Like, that's just a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, that crosses the line of.
Yeah, it's just too much bizarre.
That's the icky line.
Yeah. So what else? Would you like to bring up anything?
I really can't think of anything. We talked about a lot.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to do this again sometime. Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. I love to talk wrestling, so.
And me too. I could literally be here all night. So.
Yeah.
So if you ever want to come on again, we're here Sundays doing pay-per-view reviews. We usually have a couple drinks and then just talk the shit about some retro pay-per-view of some sort, or just whatever.
Oh, cool. You have to do some of the old Halloween Havocs.
That is the theme for the month.
Good.
I could say we're doing every month now. We've been picking a theme, generally of what is typical. So of that particular month in history. So
Survivor Series and whatnot.
Yeah, I believe we're going to go through Survivor Series. So there's 4 guys. We usually pick one, and then we watch it, and then we just talk about it. And sometimes we just bust balls, make fun of each other. And it
was funny when I first got the network. One of the first things I watched was the Halloween Havoc with the electric chair.
That was 1992 or 3? 92, I think, right?
It was. I know it was like Cactus Jack, Abdallah the Butcher.
Yeah,
I think the Steiners were involved in there.
Yeah, I remember.
That was
that was quite enjoyable.
Mess of a match.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's WCW in 1992, so
yeah,
you know.
I know.
All right, what's that?
I was gonna say, like, they had the spin the wheel, make the deal match that should have been awesome, and the worst possible match came up.
Yeah, well, I think that's the part of it. They didn't rig it to where it would probably come up as something that should have been. They just said, hey, let's just do whatever. And then it just
let's have Jake Roberts and Sting in a coal miner's glove match.
It's a weird period for WCW. WCW, I think, it gets a lot of flack.
Yeah.
There's some really underrated stuff that goes on, especially.
Yeah, I mean, it always had good stuff. It just.
Yeah. There was some outlandish gimmicks. Like, it's like the really bad outlandish stuff would outshine the really good stuff. And people just gave it a bad, it just gave itself a bad name because of it. So, all right, Joe, would you like to tell people where they could find you online?
Absolutely. My handle on YouTube and Twitter is Pureval, Pureval. I try to post about 5 videos a week on my new YouTube channel. I mostly do unboxings. I've started to do a few other things here or there. I did a review of a book about Monday Nitro about a month or so ago. I'm planning to do a review of this year's Halloween candy coming up. I've got the candy. I just need the stomach.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Lots of fun.